All right, for PMAX campaigns, have you found brand exclusions to work just well? Yep. So, I actually don't use the keyword or brand exclusions too often. I kind of want them in there. So PMAX was I guess I would say I don't use PMAX as my only campaign. The only time I actually do that is if I'm like not focusing on Google at all. We're just going to be using it as a catch-all kind of landing area for Meta scale or YouTube scale. I kind of want all those branded conversions to roll in there because it's going to be smart bidding and hyper efficient for CPC. So it actually works pretty well for that area. If I were to use it, the brand exclusions did work equally well, in my opinion, as keyword exclusions. I don't see a big difference there in terms of what shows up in the search terms report. So I guess, in my opinion, I would say if you could test it consecutively, test one, then change and test the other one, see if anything slips through, if there's any volume or not. But I have actually not seen any difference, and I've seen them both ways a few times each. If there is a difference, it's immeasurable.
Yeah, moving towards knowing exactly why you're using PMAX, I think, is the first question.
I think also if you're using keyword exclusions, it might also not be that your brand is eligible for brand exclusions. My requests are usually approved in 24 hours when you request a brand with the URL. So that could be something where, if you're like not through the approval process or slowing down or it's not getting approved, keyword exclusions can fill in that gap there.
We have another question as well.
When switching PMAX, yeah.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, sorry. you actually want to read that work.
Yeah, no. When switching PMAX into feed only, do you typically also adjust budget, TROAS, TCPA at the same time, or do you let it relearn and optimize off your old targets?
No, if I switch it into feed only, I will also reset the budget and the TROAS target. And that's also because when I'm switching into feed only, it's at the same time that I'm switching into standard shopping. So I'm doing a large rebuild of an account. It's actually of an old client. They tested 2 other agencies and came back. So I'm like, cool. So we're going to rebuild what we had before, but with feeder strategy. So they took all of my standard shopping, moved into PMAX. It kind of crushed all of the, well, no, not crushed. It degraded all the performance. And then another agency tried to do something similar, and then they're coming back. So I said, hey, we need to move back into standard shopping. However, we're going to run feeder strategy. So we don't interrupt too much of what's going on right now because it's a publicly traded entity. So we're going to be pushing back into standard shopping alongside of PMAX still enabled. And the reason why we're doing that is to push PMAX to be more more warm. And so there's running full build right now, and it's getting like 60%, 80% of its activity on existing customers. As we launch standard shopping, I'll move it into feed only. Standard shopping is going to have a really low TROAS goal, like 40%. And then I'm going to take my feed only and turn it into like a 300% TROAS goal. So when I turn to feed only, it's always in addition to a standard shopping. And that's when I'm like, what am I spending here? What do I need to spend here for budget? That's just an 80-20 split. Then also, what do I need as a new target, knowing that I want this to become I want my standard shopping campaign to take priority. So I have to adjust it in comparison to the other campaigns. So yes, I do those things, but it's because of the standard shopping campaign being added into it.
Yeah, PMAX, bottom of funnel, higher TROAS, and then obviously cold, lower TROAS because it's going to look worse. So you want to let it, have the freedom to reach out.
Yep.
I think we had a continuation.
Cool. I have a limited product range, about 8 to 9 SKUs. Do I need to adjust my approach with dog pile strategy? If so, what do you recommend given the low SKU count? Yeah. So I don't think you can actually run dog pile on 9 SKUs. It's not really necessarily built for that. It was built for like thousands of SKUs and categoricals. I would say if you have 8 or 9 SKUs, you have to have at least like 3 or 4 overlap in a category. And then you can run like all 9 SKUs and then 4 in one category and then 4 in another category. So you have like, 4 products in one category, 4 products in another category, a catch-all for all 9. Maybe there's 1 off or 4 and 5, but you can separate them out as long as there is a categorical difference. But if you have 9 SKUs that, I guess I would ask yourself this. If I was looking at SKU number 1 and I'm interested in SKU number 1, could I also solve the same problem or get the same result if I choose the second through the 9 SKU? Like, what if I didn't choose the first SKU? Could I get that done with the second through 9 SKU? Shirts, for example, maybe, probably, came in on brown, bought blue. But if it's like, hey, I sell like baby donkeys and I also sell like, Alienware PCs. Great. Like,
you're
never going to overlap. Exactly. You're never going to overlap. Put all your baby donkey products in one, then have a catch-all. So categorical splits are paramount to this, because what you're trying to do is funnel a specific avatar into that buying decision. What they are going to buy, you have very little control over, though.
Camille, in your scenario, I would say maybe male and female might be something that you could potentially do.
Do we know what the industry is?
I don't know if I mean, I don't know if I could say
I
it.
was saying, do you know? Yeah, or nay?
It's clothing though. I would say it's
Okay.
clothing.
Yeah. So I would say categories of clothing and gender for sure. Like that would be great.
Yeah. Cool. And yeah, we can talk more in the school community too if you have more questions on that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Abdullah Habib, is Google expanding what is considered an engaged view conversion? Many of my campaigns are getting less view through and more engaged view, and I doubt it's a change in user behavior. That's a good question.
Abdullah, are you getting, or have you been investing, or is there more activity inside of YouTube and YouTube Shorts? YouTube Shorts had a lower threshold. I think 2 years ago. It was when it was moved from a 5-second conversion engagement to from a 10-second to a 5-second. That was at the same time where YouTube came out and just called everybody and was like, "Run YouTube Shorts. It's fantastic because it can convert at
Looks
half the
amazing,
threshold."
but yeah, a
Right.
lower
It can
threshold of entry.
exactly. It converts at half the threshold. So what I would say is, if you are seeing more Shorts engagement, that would be why. If you recently started a YouTube Shorts campaign, that'd be why. Anything that's on the Shorts network, or even anything on the video network, what I would look at is see if that view count increased. I'll give you just let me do a PMAX. Actually, do I have PMAX?
Yeah, the
running?
PMAX views and cost per view.
All right, let's just do this here. I'm gonna share screen. All right, this we're actually scaling up on just basically Meta at the moment. But if you look inside of the columns and then you go into the views, and then view rate. Oh, I forget, I already retypes it for you. Yeah, view rate. So
Well,
if
you
you
can
look at
also look
these
at cost per
things,
view too, right? To see the overall spend difference.
that's another thing too. And that's the thing though. If you see more engaged view, you can still get an engaged view on a non-video format, which is kind of crazy. But if we see this like, hey, we don't really have a lot of views, like 895 in like a week-long time period is not that much. Let's just check week over week as an example. So yeah, we have more views here. Like, did we see any sort of at event type? Do we see any more engaged view conversions? So we have 145% more views. My engaged views is up 40%. Wow.
Yeah.
Now that might have really nothing to do with anything, honestly. It's just saying like, hey, I'm getting more engaged views, but that's also because the video campaigns are actually getting more, and because it's showing people who are most likely to convert near the end, because it's Performance Max is going to take 100% of the credit, and it would love to take 100% of the credit, especially when our value per conversion is in the 400s. So you can see how sometimes this thing will just fluff up some in-app ROAS because it decided to show 10 people an ad before they bought. And now, wow, look at all this revenue coming in. But that's what's really happening, is basically just typically you can measure by your views going up. Then you'll see more engaged views. And if you're on Shorts, that happens at a 5-second threshold, then 10. What that means is that as soon as I see a YouTube short for 5 seconds or longer, if I go and convert later on, it will count it. On YouTube horizontal, I have to stay for 10 seconds or longer. And then if I go convert, then that's when it's counted. So Shorts have essentially half the barrier of threshold before they can count a conversion. That's why Google's pushing so hard for it.
Yeah, that's a good question. Hey Juan.
Hey.
And Joey.
What up, Joey?
And then we have
Right.
another question as well. Is there any practical difference between using a campaign bidding strategy or share bidding strategy? I'm segmenting an account more and more and wondering if better to use shared bidding strategy.
I think you're kind of talking about the portfolio bidding strategy, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, and I typically don't use those because each campaign that I'm running, I'm trying to have a real or particular use case. So there's very rarely times where I'm like, hey, everything in this account should do this. Not necessarily. Like, you want to have max clicks can have a CPC cap if you're going after a really competitive, aggressive market, and you want it to be, spending more and getting more clicks than being really top half first page. So I would use a bidding strategy for that one particular use case, but I wouldn't do that anywhere else. So I typically don't use share just because that means to me, in my opinion, that might be measuring in app a lot, where it's like, hey, just give me a 400% T ROAS. You could just slap a 400% on everything, see what wins. I don't know. I wouldn't say that's probably set up for best for growth, but that is a use case for that. So if you're doing that, I would suggest not, just because it's it's gonna be a lot more labor intensive than that.
I guess I'll give a scenario of a recent thing that we were doing in an account that essentially we were doing portfolio T ROAS. We were doing a CPC cap on that. But the strategy was there's these two different audiences that are using the same keywords. And so we inflated the AOV of one conversion action versus the other for the audience. So if, for example, we needed more of person A versus person B, we would just increase the AOV of person A. And since it's on a ROAS bidding strategy, then it would lean more into getting more of that user. And then we would just rotate it back and forth based on what the client's needs were. But that's cool. A very, very specific use case scenario. Worked, but we had an issue where the CPCs inflated because we inflated the AOV too much. So that's why we had to do a CPC cap. We're like, okay, let's make sure.
Let's stop this thing from going too crazy. Yeah,
exactly.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And so, yeah, for that particular use case, for sure. And there's probably a ton of other ones that you can say, but that would be the practical difference, I guess, Abdullah, is if you are running something where it's like, I have 5 different remarketing campaigns and they're on pretty much, 5 of my top performing categories, and they're all spending $100 a day. And unless they're over a 4, don't even do it, because I know there's going to get a lot of engaged view conversions and it's on there. So if it's below a 400% ROAS goal, just kill it. Maybe something like that. Yeah, you can slap a remarketing share bidding strategy and across the board. Yep. That's something that you can do like a shortcuts that way. I wouldn't suggest it as like an SOP.
Yeah, definitely. Bert throwing the fist.
Hey.
All right. Question. When using feeder strategy, are you expecting both campaigns to get conversions, or is the secondary campaign, the one that's running looser targeting, not expected to get much?
Yeah. So you actually want to look at how they are working combined. And I've had that same campaign feeder strategy running in an account for some time now, and I've used them as an example before. And what I like about them is I can continue to use it as an example as long as it's holding, and it should. So what we see here, this is just my most recent scale. This is that trying to launch pens. So you can see that what happened before was there was $8,000 in spend and $0 in spend inside of PMax and standard shopping. This, however, was not meeting the daily budget. It was not spending the daily budget. Their T ROAS targets that they had on it, which was a 300%, was being met, but flip-flopping in between like some good performance. So sometimes it's 4, then 2, then 4, then 2, and that's, just kind of bounces around. So it's not necessarily being met. And so it was stuck in spend. It didn't have anybody that I think it could proactively go after. So we don't know how everything's going to react, and everything will react differently. So it really is like sometimes standard shopping just crushes it, and PMax, you don't really see much in the way of revenue, or vice versa. In this scenario, we can kind of see that this ROAS is 194 and 380. So what's funny is this actually went from 299 that it was getting ROAS by time and had a 300% target. It was meeting it within 0.001 by time, and now it actually exceeded it. It exceeded it and it spent $9,000 and exceeded it because it attributed 157% conversion value. So what I would look at is, after I add in ad spend here, before I looked at what happened here, I need to see how did Performance Max react. Performance Max was able to double its spend that it wasn't able to do before. That's win number 1. Nailed it. Like, we can pack up shop and go home right now. We called it a success. We couldn't get the campaign to spend. So that's win number 1. Win number 2 is that the rate of increase in conversion value inside of Performance Max is higher than the cost. Great. Is it also, when you take into consideration everything that has been produced? Also, yes, 198% in spend increased by 219% in total conversion value. This could say $2 in a billion, or this could say $2 in a billion. Doesn't matter to me. As long as combined, the rate of increase is equal or better. If
One
it's good.
and a point on that too, when he's talking about two different strategies, it's mainly based off of the buying cycle of the user. So like if, for example, standard shopping looks a lot better than PMAX, then the user probably doesn't need as much push and remarketing to convert, or they're just on the shopping network and that's working the best and they don't need to, see another ad. But if it's flipped and PMAX is working way better than, standard shopping, and you see that clean scale like we're seeing in here, okay, maybe they need the extra interaction from PMAX to then convert, but standard shopping is driving that initial interaction. So you're sort of just marking like different frequencies, and we've talked about this before, but like different frequencies in the pipeline, and you're just seeing that be played out, in this strategy, right?
Yeah.
Whatever, way.
Yeah. What's kind of funny too is like even like week 1 when we added this, it was, you can already see like 54% more cost and 39% more conversion value. So there's the first time lag. That's how this is driving way too much spend, and this is not converting as quickly. And the combined total is inefficient. And then obviously you kind of look through as longer time goes on, and that conversion lag catches up. And now it's starting to become more efficient. And the spend really isn't like, we really haven't made any changes in this campaign since inception. We're giving it time for this to happen. And that's what we're wanting to see is we should see equal to or more conversion value lift in percentile than the cost. And hopefully, obviously, that equates to obviously a better ROAS. So the thing that we want to look at is after adding this campaign to this campaign, we've spent 200% more, got more than 200% more revenue, add a better ROAS, add a better CPA, and everything's looking good. And we can even see like what's in the time lag is like showing crazy high CPAs. But then as they convert, it converts well. And this is because our time lag in this account is like 21 days. These are massive bulk orders of 10,000 units. So it's not like buying a pen, it's buying 10,000 pens. So long time lag. That's okay. I need to see, is it remarketing the people closer to buying journey? I'll see that by time. And is it also increasing the amount of conversions that we're getting off of by click? Because that is the accrual future of what this will turn into.
A quick point on that too. Look for leading indicators like add to carts as well, or whatever's further up the funnel. If you want to speed up that buying cycle to get pre data when you benchmark.
Yeah.
So if you're like, okay, if I can't wait like 3 months or whatever the cycle is, let's say it's ridiculous, like 30 days or whatever to run a test. You can say, okay, what can I look at that's like the step that people take before benchmark that's been the same past, the inception, I guess. Of the account or whatever range you're looking at. And then you can say, okay, add to carts. We're average on this amount. We're still hitting that average at a higher volume. They're just not converting yet. Perfect. Keep going.
Yep. Exactly right. And so that's kind of like what we have to look at is we do see this like the rate of stuff. This one is 100% more spend. Now we're getting 200% more first visits.
Oh, we can't see your screen by the way for sure.
Oh no. Sorry, I stopped. So this is something that we kind of look at. Again, it's not accurate because it's coming from GA4. We're getting set up on Wicked as we speak, which is good. But what we have to look at too is like if we have, nothing in 16 grand and this one went up 41. So this is 157%. This is brand new. We can kind of see, okay, 157% increase in spend. What's funny is this is why I think that also GA4 first visit is going to be in a time period, which sucks. So it's like new to this website in this time period. So that going up technically is correct. This is probably inflated by about 25%, but because it is overlapping with this one here, but that's kind of what we're looking at is the level of spend and what is also coming through. So this has a little bit more than twice the spend, and we're looking at 700 versus 2100. Okay, so we're on track. If we know that there's going to be remarketing here from people that are not coming from standard shopping, that's fine. We're looking for these two numbers to kind of start to match up more often in terms of scalable percentiles. And so far it's working and it's on track. So those are kind of like the leading indicators. I wouldn't count micro conversions as primary. It could go haywire for a long time, especially the longer you're on it. But micro conversions is secondary for sure.
Definitely. Facebook a little bit different. But yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're doing on Facebook though.
Yep.
Cool. And then this was I think in reference to the question earlier. I'm running YouTube ads and those are going stronger, if that's the question. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, it's probably shorts or more just being attributed to YouTube versus, the previous average in the account.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. If you're running YouTube ads and those are getting stronger, look at the rate increases of clicks versus engage view. YouTube ads, especially running video action campaigns, are made to go warm. And so what I would say is those people who are going warm is going to have a lot more engaged view conversions than clicks. If you crank up 100% of the budget and you see engaged view go up 220% and your clicks go up 12%, we have an issue. It's going too warm. It's going to hit a scale wall as soon as it attributes everybody it can and then just stops. So that'd be a good way to show that kind of, if that's happening.
Yeah, I would say use the exclusion YouTube AdSense or Google AdSense without YouTube.com. And then also you can look inside and say, okay, is optimized targeting on? That's something you could potentially turn off if you have a really, really high frequency of users that are coming back from another source. And then make sure, obviously, the basic one, which is just make sure you have your exclusions all set up in terms of just customer lists, ideally, and then using the Google tag to exclude all converters.
Yep. Sounds good.
Cool.
That's right.
And then, thanks. Super helpful. Cool. There you go, John.
There we are.
Back for John.
Perfect. Awesome. So I think we went through all the questions, which is perfect. I think we went through this. I know we have another question, actually, Dave, that just popped in. How accurate is Google Reps guidelines of video ads? So they're, in my opinion, the Google Reps I've worked with, and they're pretty good, they focus too heavily, in my opinion, on video action campaigns. And that's because they have a preconceived notion that you're looking at in-app ROAS, which is always true. So the Google rep is going to try to push us towards what is going to look the best. Maybe not what's the best for the company, but they don't look at the company. They look at in-app metrics. So their barrier or their line of demarcation of, is this a good idea or a bad idea, is in-app good. Ours is NCAC better. So their recommendations are going to be more towards video action campaigns that also have, 40, 50, 60% warm traffic in there. And Dave, I think you saw the explanation I did maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, where we ran a test on Uproot Clean and Northbeam, and First Click showed that YouTube got 50% more conversions with 40% less new visits when we cranked up Meta. And that's because even Northbeam and Google are basically using the same tool in order to identify it. It's more heavily last click environment, kind of in more of a heavy last click environment.
And this doesn't have edge tags still, correct?
Right. And so this is using, in my opinion, an outdated model of tracking, similar to what GA4 uses, also similar to what Google Ads uses. It kind of sees the last few steps. Unfortunately, that's why PMAX always looks better. So when I'm looking, and this is running video action campaigns, I'm pure cold. That's what's sad. And even on first touch, when Meta went down by 30%, which is not a small factor, that's like, I think it was 60K or something like that, because it's 30% down from 200 grand, 60 grand less. So we spent 60 grand less inside of Facebook. YouTube Ads was spending its little $1,100 and got 50% less revenue on first click, which means that actually should have not been affected at all if it was actually first click. And then the same thing when we scaled it back up. This is when I was saying, okay, well, once we push Facebook ads back up another 30% here, then YouTube shows also no difference in spend like it did the week before, but then 42% more revenue and better NCAC and better MER for 43% less new visits. So we have less visits and even fewer new visits. So we have more warm traffic. And then this one went up 33% from first click. The reason why this is first click is incorrect is because it really kind of shows up first click when it's the last few clicks in your funnel, first few clicks in the YouTube that's acting as remarketing, which is making it look good. But it was actually driven by here. So when you're talking about, is it accurate for Google? If Google was saying, hey, here's how to get, good awareness on CPM and good awareness on CPV and higher frequency on your video action campaigns, or sorry, your video sequencing campaigns that are not trying to get a conversion. And then if you're layering in a video conversion campaign to the same products on the same SKUs, and you spend X amount, Y amount, and Z amount in each one, layer the funnel and then grow and scale and measure by NCAC. Yes. But it's hey, run this campaign. It has really awesome performance. Question that.
It's all logic based in the platform. It's not taking in, like you said, it's not taking into account anything else. It's purely just logic in the platform. If you want higher click-through rate, do this. You will get higher click-through rate. Will it be better? Maybe, probably not.
Exactly. And so that's where I think is it good for the company and the business? Most likely no. Is it good for in-app revenue? Most likely yes. That's what Google kind of is good at.
Yeah. I think it's a good way to, I think that the epiphany for a lot of people too. It's logic in platform, not back end.
Exactly. Let's go to the last, I think we have a couple more questions actually. This way we'll just finish off with these.
Yeah, run through them.
All right. For both Dogpile and Feeder, do you also have dedicated brand versus non-branded campaigns? Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Standard shopping brand, search brand, PMAX if it needs to cover the brand. But yes, they're always dedicated.
More levers, the better, is how I look at it. If you have the budget.
Right.
Which I know you do. Okay.
All right.
Example of account structure on top. Yeah.
Oh, yep. With GA4 being omni-channel and Google Ads being omni-campaign, is there any drawbacks to purely rely on GA4 to understand true ROAS, assuming the client can afford? Well, if you're looking at attributable ROAS, yes, you don't want to do that. I actually ran, what's funny is I was actually just looking at this. I ran a test off of 10 months worth of data and not 10 months, like a year and 10 months. So this is October 2023 to January 9th of this year. And this is my own account, and I know I spent 224,000 of my money, 224 out of 236. So only 12 grand out of 236,000 was spent on shopping campaigns. GA4 says that only out of 2,700, about half, a little bit more than half, 1,400 came from paid shopping. So it's half off. Now, your question was about, is there any drawbacks to purely relying on ROAS? If you're looking at it by a channel or a campaign, yes. If you're looking at it as total top line, no. So if your GA4 is capturing all of your sales, great. You know your spends are. I know I spent, 224,000 or 236,000 and I made 2,800 sales. Okay, good. That's accurate. Now, did they come, in our 162 of organic shopping? No, I can prove it. The referral, 175, no. Organic search, 212, yes, when they came back. But this is not ROAS because this is a blended environment. So you can use it for top line if you're capturing everything, but for attribution, no.